Well, hello, Next Gen fam. It is so exciting to have you here, and happy fall, because when you're watching this, even right now or in the next few weeks or so, it will be fall time, and it's the perfect time to get cozy, take out your notebook, and enjoy this entrepreneurship chat that we are so excited to share with you today. So I have the fantastic Tamara Steffens on with me this afternoon. Tamara leads the investing and VC partnerships for N12 in both North America and India, so we know she's amazing. And she's the executive sponsor of the fund's Female Founders Competition. She's an experienced operator and entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience in Silicon Valley, and has experience with both startups, large tech companies, and pretty much everything in between. Tamara, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Rachel. Great to be here.
How is everything going on in your world on this lovely September day?
It's a beautiful day here in Texas, so I can't complain.
Amazing. Well, we're going to just kind of go ahead and dive right in. I know that we have a lot of questions, and to all of our Next Geners, thank you so much for getting involved and sharing some of the things that you wanted to kind of chat about in here today. But Tamara, how we always kind of love to start these conversations is by taking it back to the beginning. We know that you have such phenomenal experience when it comes to just entrepreneurship as a whole across kind of different levels and industries. But we'd love to kind of start from the beginning and hear, what was it that really lit your flame, if you will, when it comes to entrepreneurship? What was the spark that brought you into this world in the first place?
Yeah, so it's funny. I got into tech like a lot of people do. You kind of fall into it. I grew up in Michigan and had some mutual friends that knew Scott McNeely. He actually lived in my neighborhood, and he started Sun Microsystems. And I had a background in financial, and they were moving into that space. And so it was a great opportunity. It sounded like a lot of fun. And I remember him telling me, oh yeah, Sun Microsystems. And I'm like, okay. And somebody asked me in the interview, they said, do you know what that stands for, Sun? And I'm like, no. But it actually stood for Stanford University Network. So a little trivia back in the 90s. And it was a great start to a tech career. But as you know, the 90s was also a time of birth for many, many startups. Several of my friends went over to Netscape, and I ended up going, my first startup was a company called software.com. No, we didn't do software as a store or anything like that. We actually did email. And it seems like, oh, that's so normal, email, but it wasn't that normal. So in the mid 90s, you didn't have a personal email. You actually, somebody would call you and they would leave you a voicemail message, something we still have, but nobody ever listens to. So everybody was like, oh, you're going to go to a company that does email? Like, people are going to get a personal email address? And I'm like, I think they are. Like, think about how easy it is just to get an email. And then the time, the technology wouldn't allow you to have millions of users with a single domain. And it was at the beginning or of the internet, if you will, for ISPs. So like AOL, you might not know who they are. You're kind of young. So, AOL and Earthlink were like ISPs, and you would order your internet service from them, and they would give you a personal email address. And we worked with all of the big telcos and the big ISPs, and sure enough, everybody did get their own personal email. In fact, most people have 5 or 6. So it did turn out to be awesome. And that was my start in tech, and I've never looked back. Or my start in startup tech.
It seems like there's more to the story as far as startup tech. Where did that kind of lead you in getting to the next phase of your journey?
Yeah, so I did that for several years. I ran global sales for them. We took the company public in '99. And I thought, well, I don't know if I really want to continue to work for a public company. Maybe I'll go do something new again. And one of my friends through my journey at software.com was a guy by the name of Sky Dayton, very infamous. He started Earthlink when he was in his, I think, late teens, early 20s. He was very young. And he started a company called Boingo. And again, all my friends, when I said, I'm going to go to work for this company called Boingo, they're like, what? Like, who's going to use Wi-Fi? Like, what do you, I mean, because no one had Wi-Fi on their phones, right? Android and iOS were, either nascent or didn't exist, right? So you weren't trying to connect your phone to Wi-Fi. But he saw a vision where you could open your laptop anywhere and just connect, and you just have one button to push, right? So if you were in a coffee shop or an airport or anything like that, it would be super easy. And so we worked on connecting all these nascent and disparate Wi-Fi networks together and creating a single network so you could have one-click sign-on. And then, of course, everybody started using it on their phones as well. So journey number 2 with yet another amazing CEO, the first CEO, John McFarlane at software.com, he went on to start Sonos, which is also awesome. So I don't know, I feel like I was just lucky to continue to work for these amazing CEOs and with these great ideas. And, life is luck, timing, and skill in that order. And I think for sure that's my case. I kept lucking into great technology. And then I went on to work for a company that did, before there was such a thing as cloud backup or iCloud or Google Cloud, where you could back everything up. They started a company that did backup on your cell phone. So that it wasn't Android yet, and it wasn't iOS yet, although that technology was getting started. It was an operating system called Brew. That's what most people had. Your Motorola flip phone was a Brew phone. But most people dropped their phones, either ran them over or dropped them in the toilet. And then all your stuff was gone. And you were like, oh my God, everything that's on my phone, all my contacts. And so Verizon worked with this company, Fusion One, and they created the first cloud backup. And so when you went into a Verizon store to get a new phone, it would have everything on it. You could just walk in, give them your name, your phone number, they'd hand you a phone, and all of your contacts, everything was on it. And everybody was like, this is great. And, they charged $1 a month, which sounded super reasonable. And so, I like to say email before email was a thing, Wi-Fi before anybody knew what it was, cloud backup before it ever existed. I tended to fall into these technologies that were really early, and I loved it. I mean, I thought the fun of it was to figure out, how to get growth and, move the company forward. And I focused mostly on biz dev and sales. So I was more what they would call now the chief revenue officer or chief commercial officer, but really fun. The whole journey has been amazing.
Amazing. So it seems like you went from being a powerful woman in the startup tech world, and then venture capital made its way to you. So you seem to definitely be an individual who makes waves wherever you go and kind of makes some really strong impressions on people, which I love. Where did the venture capital side of this kind of come to play?
Yeah, well, my last startup was yet another email startup. And the guys actually from my first journey at software.com, a couple of them, we put the band back together, as they say, and they created a mobile email client for both iOS and Android, of which people don't realize this, but Microsoft did not have a mobile client for Outlook. And so this was slightly before Satya took over. We still had a Windows phone. Now I think those are in the some sort of archive, in some sort of museum, I believe. They've already made it there. But they ended up buying, the company was called Accompli, and they bought the company, all 11 of us, and I ended up at Microsoft. And as part of that journey, which was great, we stayed in San Francisco, and this team stayed together, and I did business development for the broader Office 365, including Outlook. The application, within a month or so of them buying the company, we renamed it and re-released it to the world, called Outlook Mobile. And so that's how I ended up at Microsoft, doing one of their best products, I think, still one of their fastest growing, largest number of mobile users, which was great. And then after, it was 5 years, I was at Microsoft for 5 years, and they said, hey, you've raised a ton of money for all the startups you've been at, both sides of the table. we'd love you to be on some of the boards that we've invested in. So I went over to Microsoft Ventures, which is actually called M12. So it's really, I am on the other side of the table, but it's great because M12 is super founder friendly. We're a financial focused VC, so we're not aligning with the strategy of Microsoft per se. I mean, we like to make sure it's something Microsoft can help them with, but we don't go get permission to invest in a particular strategy. We run it purely like a financial VC, and it's so much fun.
I love that. Did you have any particular inspiration that told you you needed to take this opportunity to work with M12? You needed to help other entrepreneurs really kind of find their way, which it seems like is exactly what M12 is doing.
Yeah, I did think that. I do think it does give a lot of the startups that I know and a lot of the founders that I know, most of them are fairly senior now and they can find their own funding. But a lot of the early in career founders, it's still a journey, right? And trying to figure that out. And in particular, M12 had the year prior to me joining started the Female Founders competition. And that really swayed me to come over and get involved because, as you know, females get about 3 to 4% of all the venture funding that's out there. So, could Microsoft shed some light on that and create a competition and some visibility for these women founders? And that blew me away. I mean, the year I did it was last year. We had 700 applicants, and it was super difficult to narrow it down to 4. There were that many good ideas, that many good businesses already started. So I think we've come a long way. There's still a lot of money that doesn't go to females, and it's a fact that female-run businesses are actually more profitable. But we are making a ton of progress, and I'm proud that Microsoft and M12 keep pushing that envelope.
How do you feel as though your particular place within M12 and the role that you're playing, how are you kind of making capital access more accessible to individuals? Because like you're saying we know that not only is there less money going to female entrepreneurs, but diverse entrepreneurs as well. What do you feel like you're really kind of strong in leading any of the charge and making this just more wholly accessible for individuals?
Yeah, I think Microsoft as a whole is really, really leaning in on that and trying to help. It's a long journey. It's not something where we're going to do a couple of things and it's going to make a big dent. It's going to be years in the making, very much like what we've been doing with female founders. We've gotten involved in the Black and Brown Founder Initiative and are trying to really lean in there and do not only mentorship, but trying to work through some ways to do funding in that community as well. It'll be slightly different than what we do on the female founders side, but we're constantly trying to evolve and use Microsoft's not only our big advantage in the market, but also we do have a financial advantage as well that we think we can lean in and really help. It's a company who's made diversity one of their core priorities for several years. We publish a diversity report every year, which I think is really important, and it's gotten a lot of other big companies to think about that as well. And now if we can just push it down, M12 is small. We're 25 people, right? We're a small fund in the grand scheme of things, but if we can help new founders, it's great, and it's so much fun.
I love that. And it seems as though you use, in particular, kind of focusing on the female founders competition, it seems as though you use that as a way to source investments, to see what kind of companies are out there, what entrepreneurs are up to. Are there other situations or scenarios that M12 is doing in order to really kind of source these deals and see what's going on in the world of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I mean, we work really closely. We have another organization that's kind of adjacent to M12 called Microsoft for Startups. And that any startup can, apply to get Azure storage and credits for Office 365 and engineering help. And it's fantastic. So a lot of the startups will come to Microsoft for help just out of the gate. And and we work with them quite a bit to do top of funnel, what we call sourcing, right? Meeting some new entrepreneurs. We don't do a lot of seed stage funding. We lean in on Series A, but we do have great relationships with all the big seed funds in the Valley and elsewhere in the States, at least on my team. And we try to get in early so that we can help them not only with Microsoft, but with their overall business.
I love that. For all of our next geners listening, get in there early, start doing what you need to, go see all of the things that Microsoft has for startups, and when you're a little bit further on into your Series A as well.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get you in the beginning, we'll get you in the middle, and hopefully we'll take you to the finish line.
I love that. As far as in your day-to-day, I'd love to ask you, is there a particular moment, or maybe it was even working with a particular company when M12 decided to kind of dive in and help invest in their company? Was there a big moment where you had with yourself and you're just like, wow, this is what I get to do. I get to help these companies find their way and build their path. Is there kind of a moment of self-reflection that stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost every day. We haven't announced it yet, but there's a small startup, 4 guys. They really started this idea literally in their college dorm room. They've been working on it for a year and a half. They got some initial seed funding. And I just am blown away by how far they've gotten with so little resources. So we're going to help them on the next phase of their journey. We'll announce that soon. But I remember when I met with them, I was like, wow, this is like, when we started Acompli, right? And we had no users, right? And these guys just really knew how to get their product out there, how to get testing, how to get beta users. Super impressed. And I'm excited. I'm excited we're going to do that. That's much a very early stage. And then, this week I've been meeting with and actually just before this sent a term sheet to a company that is made a small pivot. They started out with this really cool product doing analytics. And there are so many competitors in that they built this amazing no-code tool product, if you will, and have, in the last 18 months, the revenue is skyrocketing. And so it showed me that these guys were really resilient because they started with something, it was good, not great, and they said, you know what, we want to be great. And they pivoted the company while they still had some early stage funding, and now they're just knocking it out of the park. So I love seeing that. I love seeing when people understand how to pivot, because you start a company early on, maybe it's great, maybe you need to make some changes. If you know how to make those changes, that shows huge resilience.
I feel like resiliency just as a whole is something that any entrepreneur who's in it to win it really needs to have, because there are so many situations that come at you that you have to deal with. But if you're resilient to what you know to be true and following through on that, that's what will get them past all of the humps.
Totally agree.
Amazing. I mean, I would love to kind of dive in a little bit even to your own resiliency, because not only do I feel as though, and I feel like many people would also say the same thing, venture capital isn't necessarily the most open space for female entrepreneurs to find investment opportunities in, but to also be a female working in the venture capital space. Do you feel as though you've had to be really resilient on your journey to continue on and continue making splashes within this? Or do you feel as though maybe now you're starting to see more of it become common for women to be involved in this field?
It's definitely not common. We still are just a few, and as I predicted, my cat would take over. Sorry about that.
Perfect.
Yeah, no, it's still. I mean, I feel like it's an honor as a woman to be in VC and to really push the envelope there. There's still not very many of us. It's changing. It's changing for the better. So I'm hoping that over the next couple of years, more females will push into this area. It's a great career. I think we have a different vision on when we're looking at investments. We look at things differently. And I think, as Satya likes to say, a diverse team creates the best products. It's the same thing in venture. A diverse team will pick the best investments, because most products that people are trying to sell or raise money for are global, right? And there are many types of users for those products, particularly in the consumer space, but also in the enterprise space. So, having a diverse team is definitely going to make you pick better investments, that's for sure. And I would love to see more women push into this area as a career, because it's really a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Diversity is becoming more and more important, it seems, with every passing day, to make sure that everyone is being heard, is being understood, and having a place to really kind of make an impact, no matter what industry, what product, what company it really is.
Totally agree. And I think it's improving, not fast enough, but we have made some strides in the right direction, and let's just keep hoping we move in the right direction.
Absolutely. Hoping and calling upon the young entrepreneurs who will be watching this to help also make those splashes and that impact. Yeah. As far as the diverse team that you mentioned over at M12, and I know you'd said you're small at 25, which I don't think is that small, by the way, so I think that's fantastic. I know that you have a leadership position within kind of M12 as a whole. I'd love to dive in a little bit there and ask, what lessons, maybe there's one or two that really stand out to you as far as leadership that you've encountered, kind of working with M12 and learning what it means to manage and lead a diverse team and help working with so many individuals. Is there anything that kind of stands out for you?
Yeah, I think as a whole, having been in the tech industry now, 20 plus years, I am past the point where I need to, make a name for myself or take career steps. And so I feel like it's my duty and I feel privileged to be able to help earlier in career talent, both investors and business development people that want to come into both Microsoft and into the venture fund. How can I help them? Because that's where I am in my career. It's my time to pay it back, pay it forward, however you want to frame it. And that's the best part of the job. Like, we hire a lot of early in career talent, and I see them picking the best investments. They have the newest ideas, and it is joy every day to be able to work with such talented early in career talent. And I love that about Microsoft as a whole. I think we do a good job of bringing in younger talent, and it makes the job 10 times as fun.
Do you feel as though you learn as much from them as they learn from you in this whole process?
I learn more. The way they approach things, right? You have to remember, I remember my daughter, she just graduated from university in December of this past year, 2019. And we were talking about how, you'd go out and they make their decision at the very last minute, and they would all text each other or call each other. It would be like 1 minute before they were deciding where to go. And she goes, well, how did you guys do that? And I go, we had telephones, they were on the wall. Somebody would call you. And she goes, but then you really can't change your mind, can you? And I'm like, no, we just did the same thing every week. Tuesday we went to Schuler's, Wednesday we went to Julie's, Thursday we went here. We just kept the schedule the same. It was very easy, no stress. And she was like, yeah, we have to be able to decide on the fly. And so I do laugh because, I still tap text, with one finger. So generationally, they know that's a problem. They make fun of me. But so I learn from them every day, the way they approach things from a technology perspective, from a just open eyes, and their friends are also entrepreneurs. So it's just refreshing. They're awesome.
How would you encourage someone, and speaking kind of to our audience members directly, a lot of them do have companies that they've built. They have probably much smaller teams than 25. Some of them have larger teams as well. But how would you encourage a founder or a co-founder pair at a company a little bit younger to be able to always keep open-minded, to rather than kind of close themselves off to the vision of this company that they have, to open themselves up to maybe what a team member is encouraging that they try to do, or the other lessons that kind of happen along the way?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to be able to listen, and not just listen, but hear, right? Like, so as you're starting a company, whether it's 2 of you, 4 of you, 10 of you, you know, those people, you brought those people on and they're part of your team or part of your founding team because you had this vision, you have this idea. It's going to change as you move, right? It's going to change. And the best products and the most success come out of a team that is incredibly collaborative. And the only way you can be collaborative is if you truly listen, right? Yes, I think you have to have leadership, but in smaller companies, while leadership is important, it's not nearly as important as listening and collaborating so that the end product is successful and everybody feels like they're on the same journey and they all want to succeed. Everybody needs to be part of the success train.
So even infusing that notion into the very culture of the company itself, so that way you're always enveloped in this environment that is collaborative and focused on listening, not always focused on talking.
Yep. And I think transparency is really key. There's going to be bumps along the way. Don't hold back. I mean, you've got a small team. There's transparency will breed loyalty in a positive way, and you'll just have the whole team will be working for that same success. So transparency is really important. And you know, this year, even more important, I've noticed. You know, I think it's really important to be empathetic. I've always thought that empathy is incredibly important, but you know, it's been a tough year, right? We're all working from home and trying to do things a different way, and you know, we really do have to just accept what this new normal is. Hopefully, it won't stay this way forever. But I think this year, more than any, you know, adding a dose of empathy to your leadership skills is a big win.
So empathy, transparency, and collaboration seem like the big 3 key things here.
That's what I think.
I love that. And I'm sure you've been able to infuse that into M12's culture as well, in the position that you're in and working with so many different team members with vast experiences behind them.
Yeah, and you know, I along with collaboration and what we were just talking about too, I really try to make sure that the team gets visibility and exposure, right? And they're really doing the deals, right? It doesn't need to be me, right? So that they're getting that experience and that opportunity to do the next big thing, whatever it is, right? Stay at M12, go somewhere else in Microsoft, leave and go to another venture fund, whatever their career journey is. I'd love to make sure that I was a positive part of that and I was part of their success, right? And pushing them to really, you know, stretch themselves to the next career ladder, next rung in the career ladder, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the best ways that we can succeed is succeeding together, and that's really one of the ways that will be able to push us up that ladder even quicker when we're all behind one another in whatever our journeys kind of take us on.
Totally agree.
So in your particular journey, what do you feel like is kind of next for you when it comes to M12? Is there anything big on the horizon for you, or just continuing on in this really supportive space you're in?
Yeah, well, I don't think so. I mean, I'm going to continue to lead the North America team, you know, unless Satya calls me and gives me a new job, which, you know, hey, Satya, if you're listening, I'm always available. No.
I love that. If we just create a promotion right on this video right now.
Right. I'll send him the video and say, hey.
I love that. Amazing. Well, you are doing such fantastic work at M12 already, so we're so excited to see kind of what continues to come next for you, and in particular, what resources and what mentorship that you are offering to so many entrepreneurs that you touch, including with this video.
Yeah, and I like I said, it's probably the best job I've had. I mean, I do love startups and leading biz dev. Don't get me wrong. That is, it brought equal joy, but this has been a nice change, and it's been a great way to meet a ton of entrepreneurs and founders, and you know, find the next big thing.
I love that. And you know what? On that note, speaking of the next big thing, I'm a little bit biased. I think all of our next geners in our community are gonna build the next big thing, and they're gonna come to you. But we've been able to get some questions from them that they'd love to kind of ask you about and get your take on. So if you don't mind, I have a couple questions more to throw at you.
Sounds great.
Amazing. So I'm going to read this directly off so I don't mess up any of the words. Since corporate VCs often invest in companies that are within their line of business, do you generally have some interest in acquiring these companies later down the line if the company is executed upon well and showing a lot of growth?
Yeah, so there's really what I consider two types of corporate VCs. One is strategic and one is financial. We are a financial VC, so we actually don't align with the strategy of Microsoft as part of our investment. We do align with Microsoft so that we can provide growth to that company that we invest in. So could be a new productivity tool or a new CRM tool. We'll try to align them with our sales team, do co-sell with our engineering team if we need to do integrations. So we do align from an overall perspective, but it's not part of our investment criteria. In a strategic corporate VC, they go into the product line and into the engineering teams, and those teams give them ideas on who to invest in, why to invest, why it makes sense. And in that case, it's usually because they want to keep an eye on the company, they may want to buy that company, and they want a deeper partnership. So we don't do that. That said, if somebody's in our portfolio and we know that they're getting acquired, it does give Microsoft some visibility into those acquisitions. Although we put no terms in our term sheets that are right of first refusal or anything like that. So it's purely if the company's getting bought by Google and we know about it because we're on the board, we'll ask, would you like, Microsoft to take a look? Maybe it'll help, raise the price. But we're purely financial. So two different VCs, one strategic, one financial. We're purely financial.
Amazing. I'm learning so much right now as we speak. VC is something I've always wanted to learn more about, but never really dived into. So thank you for all this knowledge.
No problem.
Amazing. So we have another question. This one's really interesting. Can you talk about some of the exits portfolio companies have had and what those look like for you?
Yeah, so we're only a 4-year-old fund. So exits usually take minimum 5 years, closer to the 7-year range. So we haven't had a lot of exits, but we've had a few. Livongo was a wearable health tech company that went public. I guess it's about a year ago. We invested in our first fund. So we do a annual vintage. So every year is a new fund for us. So that was our first fund, which was 2016. So they did go public. And then we also at that time invested in Kahoot, which was an ed tech company that has now is selling to corporations, quite large European company, but very popular in the United States. They're public on a European exchange. And then another one is Cloud Simple, actually got bought by Google, was a big partner of Microsoft as well. So we certainly took a look at that when they got acquired. So those are three examples. So in the grand scheme of things, our first vintage fund is doing fantastic. And because even though it's only been 4 years, we've had, a few exits already. And I feel confident that the next couple of years, we've made some amazing investments as well.
When a company exits, do you continue to work with them in some sort of kind of mentoring resource relationship, or once they exit, that's kind of the pause on the relationship?
It's usually the pause on the relationship. On occasion, they can, pull some of their board members, if it's a public company, into their public board. But as a general rule, as a venture investor, when they exit, that's the, end of the relationship. I mean, not the friendship or the, actual relationship, but the, the legal relationship and the ownership is gone.
Gotcha. The networks we create are always alive with us.
That's correct.
Amazing. And we have one more question for you. I love this one. I'm so excited to get your response to this. With your vast wealth of knowledge and experience working at the intersection of startups and corporate innovation, how would you approach your role differently today if you could reset your career and start from scratch as a totally new VC?
Wow. Well, I don't know that I would change much. I will say this. I really, really like seed funds. I love that there's so many good ones. I can't even name all the good ones that are out there, but the investors that are willing to invest in a company before it really has any product, any users, just based on an idea and, really smart founders. That's hard. That is, you are really throwing a dart at a dartboard, but I do love that. And I like, if I was to lean in, I'd probably focus way more on seed, just because I personally think that's fun. It's a lot riskier, but I like that. Now, like I said, we do early stage, we do lean in quite early, but as Microsoft, we wait until they're a little bit, just a little bit further along. Not years, but at least they've got their product working per se. So we wait until that point. But I would probably just do all seed if it was up to me.
So if we ever see you start your own VC, we can imagine that it's going to be all seed stage.
It would be, yeah.
Amazing. Well, I know we're getting very close to time on this, so we want to just introduce one more section to our chat today, Tamara, and guide you through a Next Gen HQ tradition with some rapid fire questions. So these are just to get to know you a little bit more as a person, as an entrepreneur, all of that. So you're ready?
I'm ready.
What's a book you'd recommend to others?
Oof. I think I have one right here. I just read it. It's called Brag Better. It was a book written by Meredith Feynman that teaches women how to bring up what's good about themselves and make sure they're mentioning it so people don't forget, because women don't say enough about their success. So, and it's new. I have a lot of great books that I've read, but I love this one.
I'm definitely going to read that one. I feel like I could use the encouragement from that book, actually. What is one mindfulness habit that you have?
I like to do at least 1 to 2 walking meetings a day where I've read the proposal or looked at the deck from particularly a founder, and then spend that time not looking at a screen and really listening. It really helps me understand their vision and their strategy. I tend to find my focus while walking, if I've read the material ahead of time, to be much better. And COVID made that happen. And I feel like it's something I'm going to keep doing even after COVID.
I love that. That's a great tip to have. And finally, last one, what's your spirit animal?
Well, definitely a cat. You saw her here earlier today. My daughter spent a lot of time working at the Humane Society, and I think she has brought home many of them, and they bring joy to our lives. So I think a cat.
Absolutely. That's a great answer. Well, Tamara, thank you so very much for joining us and the whole of Next Gen HQ today. We were so honored to have you on and getting to hear a little bit more of your story.
It was so fun, Rachel. Thanks for having me. This was a great time.
Absolutely. Everyone watching, we will be back in your newsfeed with some more videos coming up. So stay tuned. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.